Yo, what's up? This is Wes Johnson, aka Pastor Wes, aka Dre. Depending on the nature of our relationship, you know me as a couple of different things, but it's all the same person. Listen, I posted a video on Instagram probably about an hour ago now, just talking about this moment that we're entering in now. And many of you know who know me and have known me for the last several years, or just from pretty much know me all of my life. You know, there are a few things that I am passionate about unapologetically. That's God, that's my family, that's sports, and men, particularly black men. And I'll be quite honest, if I'm being real, sometimes the order gets confused. But black men in particular is something that I am passionate about. Our black men. I was fortunate enough to be raised by a great pop. God rest his soul. I have two other brothers, and I understand the power of a man, particularly a black man, in your life. And so for me, I wanted to have some conversation, a fireside chat, unscripted and unapologetic. I have two of my sons here. I have four. My wife and I have four children, three boys, and our youngest is a girl. Our eldest son isn't living with us, and so he's not able to be on this conversation. We're missing that. We tried another format, but we weren't able to pull that off where he could be with us via live stream. And so it's just two of my three sons here with us this afternoon, this morning, and we're just going to have some candid conversation. Again, I am passionate about the destiny and the divinity, the roles and the responsibilities, the passions and the purposes of black men. I am unapologetic about that. That has gotten me in some hot water and in some trouble over my professional career. I've been ostracized, isolated, looked at weird and funny. I've been put into certain categories and boxes because I am unapologetic about who I believe black men are in this world and how they are marginalized and underestimated, in the words of Joe Madison. And so today, in light of Ahmaud Arbery's lynching, assassination, a tragic death in Georgia, a black man simply engaging in nature, in exercise, running, stereotyped, misrepresented, and killed. And I don't know about you, but that thing hit me hard. And I am still trying to shake this off. And so even as a pastor, I know the National Day of Prayer is transpiring, and that's cool. And if you are a pastor and if you are a person of prayer, you're going to do that anyway. And so the question for me is, on this National Day of Prayer, I thought it fitting that a nation that has viewed black men as animals, that have misrepresented and mischaracterized black men, let's have some conversation. Let's put our prayer into action. I am, well, you don't need to know my age. Sufficient to say, I have been on the front line in D.C., Prince George's County, Maryland, and now in the New England area. I am unapologetic about my compassion, my commitment to young men of color. And so for me, here's what the National Day of Prayer looks like. Not this, let's generic, let's pray for our world, let's pray for our nation, and let's pray for our businesses, and let's do that. All of the above. But man, if we're particularly pastors, men of faith, those men whose congregants are the mothers of our young men, those congregants where our deacons and our pastors and our ministry leaders and our laborers in our local church environments, these are our sons. And if we're not having this conversation, if we're not talking about this, how we're hurting, how it makes us feel, if we're not having that kind of conversation, man, listen, do what you will with the National Day of Prayer. I got some folks that look like me that's in a bad way right now, and we need to address that. And so, listen, I have two of my sons here, Yende, who is Division I college football player, doing his thing, unscripted. He doesn't have a suit tie on, doesn't have no button-up collared shirt. He has a hoodie with his head on sideways. Graduated with a well over 3-point-something GPA. Ridiculous in his ability to communicate, his grammar and his writing. And so I told him, come unscripted, because I want you to check your own biases at the door. Have my other son here, Amari, former college basketball player, and some injuries, suspended that career early, but he's still doing his college thing. And he's working professionally in the field that ultimately he will be in. And so, man, I'm excited about this. My eldest son, who's away. Again, my dudes look like real dudes, right? They look like real dudes, but they're some sharp guys. And I wanted to have us come on unscripted and just kind of have some conversation about what this incident has meant for them, how they're processing this whole situation, but not only how they're processing this situation. I just wanted to hear their take on their perspective of black men, how we're viewed or misviewed or mischaracterized. And so let me just start, man. You guys can jump in however you feel, but I'm sure you guys are aware of the Ahmaud Arbery situation, the young brother who was killed while jogging, something that he regularly did. And he was essentially lynched, assassinated, murdered, because somebody assumed he fit a description and took him out. And so I'd love to just kind of hear your thoughts on that, man. That in particular and wherever it takes us.
Man, I just think this kind of stuff happens too often, way too frequently. It's kind of sad to say that it's nothing new.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like we're always being targeted, just, based off the color of our skin, and just our physique and all that kind of stuff. So it's just sad, man, honestly. I mean, it just comes out of nowhere, this kind of stuff. So when you hear it, it's just like, wow.
Yeah, couldn't believe stuff like that happened, right? Here's what I thought about too, Amari, as I was reading that. You go jogging in our community at night.
For sure. I just, started back up again.
And this guy was jogging during the day.
Right.
Broad daylight. You were jogging at night or in the evenings when you come home when the sun is setting, when sometimes it's just flat out.
It's just pitch dark.
Pitch dark. Yeah. And we're in a predominantly white community.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that hit me when I saw that.
Especially me, because after hearing that, I just thought about, I was supposed to go on a jog tonight, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like, man, should I even go out tonight?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
I mean, it's just like that kind of stuff really just, it's scary.
But we shouldn't have to worry about that.
That's the point. We shouldn't.
That's what makes it so weird and uncomfortable as a black man. Like, you gotta worry about going out for a jog. You gotta worry about,
can you go get some exercise?
You gotta worry about saying the right thing to the police, or they might mess around and kill you. Like, there's just so many things that black people have to sit here and worry about that other races that have the liberty to just be relaxed with it, and especially white people.
Yeah. That's crazy to me. And again, watch your foot, Mark. I would just say I'm thinking about this as you said at the end of the day. Most groups of people, man, they don't have to worry about, as I've said to you all often, strategies and best practices and tips on how to respond if you're pulled over or if you're in a particular setting. I don't know if other parents have to over communicate and over ask and almost seem pessimistic about where you're going and why you're going there and who's going to be there, because in this quote unquote multicultural environment that we happen to be in, while it is multicultural in its broad expression, the reality of it is if some dirt go down, they're probably going to look at you first, right? They're probably going to ask you questions first, and then try to figure out the real deal later on. And so you're right, man. It's unfortunate that we're all created beings in the image and likeness of God. For those of us who ascribe to the reality of a deity, that we're all created in the image and likeness of a God, but that doesn't necessarily play itself out in society. And so you're right again, Dave, man. The way that you're looking right now, with a do-rag on your head, your head on backwards, and a hoodie, you should be fine if you wanted to go to the grocery store. You shouldn't have to worry about how you're going to be characterized because you're in a relaxed kind of posture and state with some slippers on. Yo, this is bothersome, man. Let me ask you a question. How should you, as young men who are in the middle of this, right? I mean, you guys are in the middle of what the culture is expressing. You got the hoodies, the hats, the earrings, all that kind of stuff, man. You guys are kind of in season with the fashion. What do you think about any of this kind of stuff when you go out?
I mean, I'm very conscious, about.
Like you can't be naive.
Yeah,
you always gotta be aware.
Yeah, I'm always on guard for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
But like nothing this drastic, but like at the same time, it could be any one of us.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. That's.
There are certain moments when I'm out and it hits me like maybe like maybe I gotta like keep my guard up in this certain situation.
You just gotta remember you a black man.
Exactly. Like you have to know that in every situation, and like the color of your skin could change the outcome.
Yeah, like you just gotta remember that you're being looked at differently.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? As much as you looking at everybody else equally, they're not looking at us like that. We have to understand that.
Dude, that's crazy. And here's what, and it is. We are. This has been said kind of cliches, but it's real. We are an endangered species. Really, the black man is an endangered species. No group of people should have to be overly concerned when they step out their house on how they're being viewed, how they're being perceived. No group of people, particularly young adults and teenagers, should have to be overly concerned about what somebody else thinks about them, because it could cost them their life if they respond in a particular way, or maybe not respond, just being who you are, your natural, authentic self. No group of people should have to feel that way. And I think, man, our African American, our black boys, man, are under so much stress, under so much tension to perform, under so much stress to not fit the stereotype, under so much stress knowing that they fit a particular stereotype. I don't know if there's any other group of kids or young adults who have to leave their house with the kind of pressure that you all do as young men of color. And man, and so while y'all get a lot of flack, I actually think, man, you guys ought to be saluted. Because I don't know if there's any other group of people, young men, who are you all's age, 13, 14, 15, 16, on up to 23. You're, what, 18? And you're 22. I don't know if any other group of young men have to be overly concerned about their safety and the quality of their life when they leave their doors and continue to thrive and to strive and to make steps and to be successful. I think, man, young African-American men, young black men ought to be saluted. I don't think we say you guys are doing your thing enough. I think we spend too much time criticizing your external, your cultural expression. We want to deal with the way you got your hair cut. We want to deal with the way that you're wearing your pants. We want to deal with your style of clothing and your tats and all of that kind of stuff.
Shout out to the young black women too.
Yeah.
Same goes for them as well.
Yeah. Shout out to our sisters, man. Because young brothers, moms, significant others, grandmas, guardians, being able to embrace you and affirm and reaffirm who you are after a world has misrepresented and mischaracterized you. Shout out for sure, man. So that's a big deal. Let me ask you this question, man, and this is more specific and unique to our community. We come from the Hampton Roads area and 20 years in the DC area, and now we're in the Northeast. It's a very different community contextually, culturally, racially, ethnically. It's a very different community. Our numbers are small in the particular state that we're living in, and I moved you guys here really some formative years, man. And so I just wanted to ask you, man, how has that journey been in terms of your identity? Have you had some periods along the way in middle school, elementary, middle school, and high school that has caused you to question your identity, that has caused you to look a little different at yourself, or think twice about your blackness for sure. And what that means?
I mean, when I first came to Connecticut, I didn't
speak up a little bit.
I said when I first came to Connecticut, I didn't really, think much about like the color of my skin. I just thought that's what it was. And, people would accept that, but I've been made fun of a few times on more than one occasion about just the color of my skin or whatever the case may be. It was just weird. It's just different. Like growing up in Maryland, you never got that kind of those kind of comments from other people because everybody pretty much looked the same way. But as soon as I came up here, that was kind of like one of the first things that people noticed about me was my skin, and not really who I was. Try to really get to know me. It was just, oh yeah, look, you black, the new black kid,
the new black kid.
I was just pretty much known as that, and that kind of can cause you to kind of act out of character for people to notice more about you.
And personally, I'm like, since I'm the new black kid and there are black kids that have been there. I see the way they're acting. It's like,
and it's like that's all they act like.
Yeah, like that.
Right.
Like that's all they acting out of character.
They've already been characterized and they fit in it, and like they're not gonna like switch.
Right.
And I've seen them grow up in high school and they're still acting the same.
Still acting the same way. Yeah,
it's weird.
Wow. You know, we would call that assimilation.
Yeah.
Right. It's one thing to adjust, but maintain your cultural identity and your self-awareness. It's another thing when you completely you don't just adapt, but you assimilate. And when you assimilate, you lose a real sense of your identity and your cultural expression. And so what ends up happening is you start shaping your cultural identity and your cultural expression around what the majority culture thinks about you, right? And so to the degree that you can fit in, be liked, and be appreciated by majority culture, you feel like you're doing all right. And the minute you step outside of that, that's a dangerous place. The minute you say, you know what, I know who I am, and because I know who I am, it doesn't necessarily have to be offensive to you. I'm good with who I am, and that's okay. And because who you are shouldn't be a threat to anybody else, right? Who you are should be. As a matter of fact, I'm at my best when I'm completely comfortable with who I am. Right? Right? Yeah, sure. Here's what a buddy of mine said. We were attending a large organization's event. And while it was doing its very best to be multicultural, doing its very best to be, I guess, what we would call inclusive, he made a statement that was so profound, and it's never left me. He said, I know we talk about multiculturalism, I know we talk about diversity, but if I can be honest, I always feel like I'm a guest at somebody else's party. And I'll be quite honest, in a part of what I've witnessed in working with young people, not just you all, but working with young people in this broader community, it always feels like our kids are a guest at somebody else's party. They're always having to explain the uniqueness of their identity, the uniqueness of their cultural expression. The uniqueness of their cultural expression always stands out, and now they're being characterized and misjudged, and they're making statements about their character, they're making statements about their intelligence, and oftentimes it's not raw and in simple language. It can be sophisticated through programming. It can be sophisticated in their assessment when you're talking with principals and teachers and other community leaders. And listen, I am glad that you all are maturing the way that you all are, and that you are adjusting to the ills of society well. And that is good. I like the choices that you all make. You're not without fault, not without the stuff that the typical young adult would go through. But I think overall, man, you guys are making sound choices, some healthy choices that I think that you'll look back on later in life and say, you know what, I'm glad I had a sense of who I am, and I've made decisions based on me liking me. Let me ask you this question, man, and let me ask you this question. What would you say to young men of color who wrestle with their identity, who feel uncomfortable when they leave their doors, who are always feeling like they're having to make adjustments in order to fit in because who they really are doesn't seem to be accepted?
I would just say, just try to be the best version of yourself. The only competition is you.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. Like, you really can't really worry too much about what other people say about you, because at the end of the day, you're gonna die alone. So you might as well make the best of your life now, and just become the best version of yourself. That's all it really is.
And I would say that if you're feeling that way, you're not alone. Like,
yeah,
we've all
for sure.
been through there. So
for sure,
in that you can find comfort that we're all here with you. We all going through the same thing. We all on this journey together. So
yeah, and try to find like an item. I look up to LeBron a lot, so I just kind of look up at him and see, and look at his journey, see how far he's came, and it just motivates me a lot. Knowing he was a black kid in the inner city, and his upbringing was a lot worse than mine. So I know if he can do great things, why can't we? Why can't everybody else? So just try to find somebody to look up to, and be the best you could be.
Yeah. And that's a great point, Amari. I would say, man, role models can come in different ways and in different settings. You don't always have to have a personal relationship with your role model. You can have multiple role models. For example, I have role models in ministry. I have role models in business. I have role models in parenting, and so I have a variety of role models that I look at and look to. Some I have a personal relationship with. Some it's a distance relationship. I'm just able to look at certain aspects of their lives that I say I really like that. Not trying to idolize it, not trying to be that, but I can extract the principles and I can extract the good of what I see and figure out how to incorporate that into my own unique personality and being that God has made me. And so I like that, Amari. Look at some cats, man, who are doing it in a way that you value and that you appreciate. And I would also say, man, listen, don't be afraid as you're growing and evolving. Somebody calling me. As you're growing and you are evolving, don't be afraid to create space. Don't be afraid to create distance in order to be who you ultimately were called to be. Listen, I believe that every single human being was born with a purpose. Despite your circumstance, despite your situation, despite what majority culture may think about you, despite how society may have framed who they think you are based on their own personal agenda, regardless of that, you were created specific and unique. And I would put the word great with that. And so if you are spending time with people who don't accentuate, who don't bring out the best in you, you may want to make some adjustments in your circle. And not to leave them behind, but you may need to make some adjustments in your circle in order to put yourself in a better position so that you can then reconnect and pull them with you. Yeah. Right? Some of us, man, we have just been overwhelmed by this slave mentality, by the psychological bonds of slavery, the mental aspects of slavery. We're still wearing those chains, man, and we haven't been able to break free. And so if we're going to be of any benefit to our family and our community, sometimes we got to create some distance. We got to pull away in order to be able to come back healthily. And so I'm saying that to some of my brothers, man. There's some dudes who are operating in envy. They don't mean to. Some dudes operating in jealousy. They don't mean to, man. They've been beat down so much and so bad that the only way they can feel a sense of value and worth is to knock at you.
Yeah, I was going to also make a point that I think that you should surround yourself with good people.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, you don't have to do it alone, but it's a lot better when you surround yourself with some, good guys with some good heads on their shoulders. So
yeah. We're social beings, and so we thrive. We thrive in our social engagement with other people, and so you're right. We don't have to do this alone. We shouldn't have to. We're social beings, and that bootstrap mentality is a myth. It's a farce. Nobody makes it on their own. All of us need a little assistance, a little help, a little push to do that. So yes, the kind of people we surround ourselves with. As a matter of fact, you should always speak well, not of yourself, but of other people. And so if you're engaging with a brother, have a relationship with a brother who isn't maximizing his potential and his capacity, he's not operating in all that he could be or should be or supposed to be, man, listen, even if it's just 2 minutes, drop something constructive on that brother, man, and keep moving. You may not want to hang out the way that they're hanging out, but drop something constructive and keep moving, man. Don't get stuck on that foolishness, man. We got enough coming at us already than to be knocking one another. And so, yeah, I want you to kind of give us some last thoughts, man. I want to hear you as well. I want to hear Allende, man, because Allende has been characterized as just an athlete. And I remember asking Allende this a few years ago. He was at this big private school, and I said to him, I said, man, how do your teachers see you? How do your instructors see you? How do you want them to see you? Do they see you as an athlete? And he said, yeah, like almost like not bragging, but just kind of like, yeah. And I would say, man, I hope at some point that evolves, that they don't just see you as an athlete, but they see you as a human being who happens to have, who happens to be athletic, right? Because I want their conversation to be shaped by Allende, the student, the young man, not Allende, the athlete, right? And so I said all that to say because this brother has always been academically gifted, has always been academically sharp. Even in his worst of times, the dude never had under 3.0, which is crazy for me because in my best of times, that was my deal, right? So this dude has never had under 3.0, even in his toughest times. And so But again, if you just see him externally, the first thing you're thinking about is athlete. But the dude's ability to articulate and to write is crazy. And so I love, man, for cats to hear you, just hear some thoughts, man, whatever you have to share, and then we'll kind of put a bow on this.
Yeah, so overall, I'm just still a bit shocked about the situation. But it's happened before. We've moved on from it. So I'm just saying that we just got to do better as a whole. But, you know, black people, we've been characterized, we've been misjudged, we've always been at the short end of the stick. So I'm saying for us to be able to come out of this, we gotta be together with it. Black men in general, I mean in particular, because we're basically the ones that are really getting targeted and actually getting slaughtered. Like this has been, we're getting at double digits now with the amount of people that have been killed for no reason. So I'm just saying that black men together, we're probably the only force that could stop what's going on right now.
That's a good way to end. Black men, we are the only force who has the capacity to stop what's going on. I'm going to say that again. Black men, we are the only force that has the capacity to stop what's going on. Black men, fathers, elders, teachers, parents, listen, when you see that young black man, can I ask you to view him in the light that his God already does? If God ain't your word, would you view him in the light of what he potentially can be and will be, and not in the light of what he's not? When you speak to him, would you speak words of life and not death? Would you represent the best of who you are so he could always get a glimpse of the possibility of transformation and not just change? Would you play your role, black man, in ensuring that we are the force that we already are? Would you play your role, young black man? That young black man, 14 to 30, that young black man, would you recognize that you are a force to be reckoned with? Would you recognize your innate and inextricable intelligence and gifting? Don't apologize for who you are, how you've been made, and the way that you have been wired. Don't let nobody tell you ain't good enough because you didn't go to this school, because you didn't graduate from this institution. Don't let nobody put no label on you because you don't like wearing suits and pointy-toe shoes. Don't let nobody put no identity trip on you because you have tats, because you wear an earring, because you like baseball caps. Don't let nobody put no marker on you. Listen, time out for that classism that's impacting us. Because we didn't go to this school, we don't live in that neighborhood, we don't talk in this particular way. I'm saying, black man, you are more than who you think you are. You are more than what you've been told. Can I ask you to circulate this conversation? This was raw and unscripted, man. Maybe you'll have it in a different way, but I am suggesting that black men, black fathers, black friends, black men with children, that you have this conversation with a group of people, man, with those young men that you have access to, that you have a spirit influence with. I think this is a conversation that's needed. We need to reaffirm who we are. And can I say to you, challenge those local organizations that imply that they represent you. Challenge them, push them, even if it makes them uncomfortable and it causes you to be ostracized. Push them to be what your dollars are asking them to be. Yo, I'm out. We're out. Thank y'all, man. Appreciate y'all.
Slap.
Peace.